WHIP, Philly's #1 college radio station.
That's us, Philly's #1 college radio station, WHIP. A lot of Flyers action on the show today. Main event, Zach Gelb and Chase Sr. here with you. Peter Laviolette is out. Craig Berube is in as the new Flyers head coach. That move came yesterday, and the Flyers are back in action tonight looking for their first victory of the season as they'll welcome in the Florida Panthers to Philadelphia. So let's go out to the phone lines right now and welcome in Steve Coates, Flyers analyst for Comcast. Steve, it's Zach Gelb and Chase Sr. Thanks a million, and how are you?
Great, thank you. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great. Thank you for coming on. And this Laviolette move, it didn't shock me because I thought he was on a short leash with this organization. But after 3 games, that's a really quick move. Do you think that this move yesterday to get rid of Laviolette and bring in Berube was fair?
Well, nothing's fair in this world when you talk about coaches in any sport. I mean, it's just it's the part of the business. I mean, coaches are a lot easier to fire than players. And, when you get to know people and you understand people, and I've been there a long time, where you meet a lot of coaches and you say, I'll see you when I see you, because it's just the nature of the business. I mean, 4 years is usually the average for a coach in the National Hockey League. Anything above that, you're doing a heck of a job. And Peter was here 5 years, and you look at the circumstance, he's a great coach. I mean, and he's a great guy, a quality guy. But the business that's the way it is. And when you take a look at the hockey club, just not the first 3 games, you got to look at the whole training camp and what was said yesterday in the press conference that Mr. Snyder and Mr. Paul Holmgren didn't like what they saw in training camp. And he only had 1 win in the training camp, and that was a split squad game. So when you take a look at it, they're basically 1-9. So they're looking at the whole idea of the preseason, what we've seen in the regular season, what they're seeing in the way the hockey club's playing, the way they're acting, their work ethic, and at this time they just felt that the way that the schedule looks, you can't afford to make any mistakes at this time. So they're proceeding with the coach, and hopefully they'll turn things around.
Like you mentioned, Laviolette had an ample amount of success, not even here in Philadelphia, but he won a Stanley Cup in Carolina, got those Islanders teams to a few playoff appearances. And you usually hear this when a coach gets fired. The one term that gets thrown out there is he lost the locker room. They need a new message. Do you think that was the case here with the firing of Laviolette? Did he lose the locker room?
No, yes. I mean, there's only one person, or the team, anybody in the team and the coaching staff, they're the ones that know that's true or not. Right now, the bottom line is it's what happens on the ice surface. On that area of 200 by 85, whether the team is functioning at a level that the people that want them to perform, that's the bottom line to the whole thing. They've got to be performing in a way that you can see a light at the end of the tunnel, see something that might give you the propensity that they're going to get better, but I don't think we saw that, and I think that's what the ownership said yesterday, that they saw that in those first 3 games, and they saw it not coming at all into training camp. So they made the decision. Is it early? Maybe. But if you take a look at the schedule, this is not an easy schedule. You've got Florida tonight, then you've got a very good Phoenix team on Friday, and then you're playing against the Detroit Red Wings in Detroit on Saturday. So it's a hard schedule, and it's a hard game, it's a hard business, and this is one of the results.
Hey, Coach, it's Chase Sr. Thanks for joining us. During the press conference yesterday, Howard Eskin took no time to push the buttons of Homer and Ed Snyder and pointed out that the Flyers have had more coaches in the last 20 years than any other team in the NHL. You've been around this organization for a really long time. Why do you believe that's the case?
First of all, I'm not too sure it is the case. I think that, even then they were talking about the fact of whether it was a true statement or not.
Uh-huh.
I haven't had the time to take a look at it. I would certainly think that if I went back and looked at the New Jersey Devils, they would probably up there too.
Mm-hmm.
When you take a look at the last 10 years, we had Ken Hitchcock, we had John Stevens, and we had Peter Laviolette.
Right.
Before that, you had Roger Nielsen got sick, so Craig Ramsey took over for him. Craig Ramsey got taken over by Bill Barber for different reasons. So when you take a look at that, I mean, every time you look at a coaching change, there's a reason. And it was interesting to me to all the questions about, this team does this team does that. Well, understand that Mr. Snyder said something very important. And this is the key to the whole thing. That this team does what they can every year, not building, every year to win a Stanley Cup.
They do, yeah.
And there's two numbers or two stats that really just tell you the tale. The team became a member of the National Hockey League in 1967. Since that time, there's only one team that's got a better winning percentage than the Philadelphia Flyers in the National Hockey League. That's the Montreal Canadiens.
Uh-huh.
There's only one team that's been to more Stanley Cup finals than the Philadelphia Flyers, and that's the Montreal Canadiens.
Mm-hmm.
So there are two. That just tells you how good they've been over that time period as compared to other teams in the National Hockey League.
Yeah, that's a telling stat.
Yeah, what they're telling you is that this isn't about saying, okay, we're going to get better. We're here, or the Philadelphia Flyers are here, to win the Stanley Cup every year. And sometimes things got to be shook up. And right now, that's what's happening. And the sad part about it is that usually it is the coach in the National Hockey League.
No, when you look at Craig Berube, during his playing career, he rocked the mullet. He was known as a fighter and an enforcer. He played for the Flyers, and he's been with the organization as an assistant since 2006. What type of style can we expect him to bring to this team, and what kind of guy is he on the bench? Because we know Lavi was a really intense coach.
Well, I think you're going to get the same thing from Berube as far as the work ethic. I think he's a very intense guy. He's a no-nonsense guy. I mean, let me tell you, he coaches like he played. He's no nonsense. I mean, he brings an awful lot to the table as far as, everybody understands that he's in the top 10 in penalty minutes in the National Hockey League, one of the best fighters ever to play the game. And he played the game hard. And he was a guy that understood his position as a player. So he's going to demand that type of effort from his hockey club. And it's going to be interesting to see how the players respond, because you don't want to play, you're not going to play. And that's not to say that Lavi didn't do that. But, when you change coaches, or you change anything in any business, there's changes. And so now there's going to be a different requirement, a different understanding what's going to be needed for this team and these individual players to be successful with the Philadelphia Flyers.
Steve.
So go ahead.
No, go ahead. Continue. Sorry.
Well, no, I was just saying that that's just the way it is. I mean, you got a new coach. You're going to have a new philosophy. You got John Paddock coming in, who is the coach of the Ottawa Senators, Phoenix Coyotes, and the Winnipeg Jets, former general manager in the league. Second winningest coach in the history of the American Hockey League. He's going to be the defensive coach. Ian LePerrier is going to bring that same credibility, because we all know how he played. And this is a hockey club that the players are going to, anytime you have change, sometimes you get a little comfortable. So now the time is, okay, the Flyers are moving forward with a different coach, and I certainly wish, I wish Peter all the best of luck. He'll find another coaching job. That's just the way the business is, because he's good. So let's move forward.
Steve Coates joins us on the hotline. Philly's #1 college radio station, WHIP. Main event, Zach Gelb and Chase Sr. here with you. And, Coates, they talked about improving the defense yesterday at the press conference. When you look at this defensive unit on the tape, what do you think needs to change? Because right now they're just not playing at the level they should be.
Well, when you take a look at the defense, I read somewhere today, somebody said patchwork defense. And I went, patchwork? Patchwork's when you fill in, and you only have a certain amount of guys that are veterans and the others are coming up to the minors because you got injuries. I mean, when you take a look at the defense, you're talking about some pretty good veterans in Timonen and Mark Streit, Colburn, Grossman, Mazzaros, Shin. This is a group that should be better, should have been playing better, but they're a product of what the hockey team as a whole has been doing. I don't think you can take a look at the one item and say, oh, yeah, the defense is doing this. I think the only bright spot so far in the hockey club has been the goaltenders. I think the goaltenders have been very, very good. So saying that the defense or the forwards or anybody or individually, as a group, the team has not played well. That was mentioned yesterday in the press conference. So that's what they want to see different. They want to see a work ethic. They want to see a coordination between the forwards and the defense. They want to see this, and that's why you've had change.
Coatsy, again, the Flyers go in the direction of hiring a coach that has ties to an organization that hasn't won a cup in 38 years. It seems as though Ed Snyder doesn't want to shy away from that Broad Street bully style and mentality. Do you think the Flyers need a fresh perspective, or do you like how they stay within the organization and try to keep that hard-nosed mentality on the bench?
That was the same question that was asked yesterday, right, in the press conference?
Something along those lines, yeah.
Where did Peter Laviolette come from?
Right. Yeah, he was out of the organization. But when you look at Bill Barber and you know, John Stevens also had ties to the organization. But I like Berube. I think he brings mentality to and a message to the bench that the Flyers really need. But I was just curious to get your perspective on that.
Well, they came out of the Flyers situation. Like, we talked about culture.
Uh-huh.
I just gave you numbers that tells you, okay, we didn't win the Stanley Cup, and you've got all these long times, but it's not for lack of effort. It's not for lack of trying, not for lack of spending money.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree that the Flyers do something every year to try to win the Stanley Cup.
Right. So the culture's a good one. I mean, this is a very good team to play for. That's why people come here to play. And it's a great organization. They understand what they got to do. They got to win, and they got to play for the logo. That's the number one thing that we do. And when you take a look at bringing Berube in, certainly you're bringing in people that have been around the Philadelphia Flyers for an awful long time, and that's what it's about. I don't think your culture, as far as bringing outside people in, and first of all, who are you going to bring in that's going to be any good to help this hockey club at this time?
Mm-hmm. Berube has a bright hockey mind, too.
It's available.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think they did the right thing. They did the best thing. They got the best guy, and that's what's going to happen. And it's interesting to me that that question's answered. I mean, or asked rather, because when the hockey club is right now, this should be a very good hockey team, and it'll get better just because of the change.
Steve Coates joins us. Coates, a few more questions right before we let you go. One of the big moves in this offseason was bringing in a player like a Vinny Lecavalier, and he's got a goal on the season and an assist as well. I think he could be a big player in this locker room as well. He brings that veteran experience in. But what has been your early impression so far with him?
Well, I think he's been our best player. I think that line has been the best line with Reed and Simmons on the wing. And when you're saying about a team it's got four lines, and that's your best line, and the other ones aren't producing, that tells you they've got a goal a game, the team, in 3 games. Giroux, Voracek, and Hartnell haven't got a point. That tells you right there you got a problem, because that's where you're supposed to be producing on your top 2 lines. So hopefully there'll be a change, whether it be a change in style, maybe. That's something we're all going to wait and see what happens tonight. We might have change in line, or they might switch things around. There's a new coach, but it's just a matter of waiting and watching, and we'll see tonight how this team reacts.
When you look at the goaltending situation, you have Steve Mason, who, although it was a small sample size last year, did a lot of things to impress the organization. And what Ray Emery did last year with the Blackhawks was unbelievable, going 17-1 with the Blackhawks, who won the Stanley Cup. Who do you like in net, and is it going to be a platoon type of situation in goal for the Flyers, or do you think one guy is going to end up winning the job?
Well, I think that's just a matter of what the coach is going to do. I mean, right now, I think both goalies have played very, very well. I mean, very well.
Uh-huh.
And so, if platooning is going to be effective to win hockey games, that's what's going to be. If one goaltender falls and one gets better, and that's what's going to take to win hockey games, that's what's going to happen. I don't think there is any design to find out which direction they're going to go. I think what you do is if your defense is good, you keep going. If you don't have a good defense, you've got problems, you change. So there's no difference between the goaltending position or any other position. When things go bad, you replace it because it's too short of a time period to recover. You've got to be able to play. And this league right now is so competitive, just so competitive. There is no easy night anymore. There's open Golden Seals that were an easy mark, or the Cleveland Barons that were an even mark. There are no even marks anymore. I mean, when you take a look at the Florida Panthers, this is not a bad hockey team. Now they got Tim Thomas in net.
Coachy, final one here right before we let you run. This is a big move for the Flyers, and as we all mentioned, Laviolette was very popular, but I guess the move was one that was needed to be made because they weren't responding to the message of the coach. They bring in Berube. It's a new style. But now how much pressure is on Paul Holmgren? Because he goes out there, he's the general manager of this team, and he makes the move. Now people expect your team to improve. Is he on the hot seat now?
No, I don't think so. I think that, everybody's going to create that atmosphere. I mean, and say, well, he went through a coach and he got the wrong players. That's just standard procedure. I mean, Paul Holmgren went and got the players. The coach has to coach the players. And now it's got to go back onto the players. The players are paid to play hockey, and they're going to be held accountable. I mean, if you read yesterday, and the players they're not going to be let off the hook. And don't think for a second that Holmgren won't talk to them. And they'll be held accountable. And that's the question that everybody's going to ask about Homer's tenure as the general manager, but I think it's unfounded at this time. I think he's done a great job. 2 years ago, we were at the Stanley Cup final. We've been in the playoffs. We missed the playoffs last year, which was a little bit of an anomaly because we missed so many people back in the blue line. And you can't win in this league with only, a certain amount of veterans back in the blue line. Obviously, we had some problems in net, but the bottom line to the whole thing is that we're starting from scratch here with a new coach, and we've got to put the onus back on the players and move forward.
Steve, we appreciate a few minutes today. Thanks so much. Have a good call today, and let's talk to you again real soon. We appreciate a few minutes, my friend.
Thank you very much. Great talking to you guys. Have a good day.